Hey guys, welcome back to the very last church update. We are here in Istanbul, it's our final day, and we wanted to relay to you the conversations we had here. We had a chat with Bilger, who's the pastor here, on the first evening. Went out for a meal with him, that was great. And then yesterday we went to their service. So they normally run in a cinema, but over the summer they run in parks. It's kind of like a picnic, open air service kind of vibe, really fun, and because obviously everyone's back in their hometown and all going on holiday, that kind of thing. So the congregation's much less. But tell us, what did we learn from Bilger?
Yeah, just to start about the spiritual landscape that the church is working in. Obviously, Islamic country, there's not a lot of evangelical Christians, a very big minority that the church is working within. But even that, with the youth nowadays, he says there's a lot of nominal Muslims. So not actual sort of mosque-going, practicing Muslims. But the biggest thing he said is it's family, family, family.
He compared, like, if you think of like career or success as the idol in the West, he talked about family being the equivalent in Turkey.
Yeah, and it's so important. So he described even like when he went to buy a musical instrument, he had to sit there for 4 or 5 hours, and they, with the shop owner, he knew everything about his family, and by the end of the conversation, he knew everything about the shop owner's family. They had to drink tea before he could even discuss buying the instrument, and then finally, after all of these fellowship and relationship building, you can finally buy your thing. And he was talking about how he knows all the shop owners, all the market owners, the restaurant owners, all in this community, all known by name, and to the point that he can call them up and say, can you reserve a loaf of bread or something like that? So it really is about building relationships. But obviously this is a little bit complicated as well, because with terms of new believers, it's not just about the new believer, it's about the whole family. Because in an Islamic community, you deal not with morally good or bad, but with honor and shame. And if, say that he talked about this daughter who came to faith and came to know Jesus, but her father was a Muslim and obviously not very happy about this. So Bilger invited her father to a service, and afterwards he had a conversation with him, and he said, I don't agree with anything you believe, but what I saw in this church was love. And so I'm fine with my daughter being here and attending this church. And so it really is that, and it's I think testament to Bilger, his relationship building, his companionship. And a tricky thing is, here in Istanbul, you're not going to get very far if you're being nice, you're being friendly for the sake of a deeper motive, like us Christians have with spreading the gospel and making disciples. If they can gauge that you have a deeper motive, they're going to block you out. So it just takes time, it's a long process. He's very in tune with the community. The church service we went to in the park, completely open air, people walking past, and he says a lot of times people will just walk past and join in, sneak into the service. And he even we talked about them being in a cinema. The cinema workers will just sit in the services and even ask questions about the sermon. Sorry, I didn't quite understand that, or that was a cool message, and stuff like that. So the landscape is different to, I think, most churches we've been to. Very relational, very family based, and that comes obviously with its pros, but also with its challenges. So that's the landscape the church is working in. But what did you think of the actual church?
Yeah, seems like it's going really smoothly. I mean, they, as we said earlier, they've grown a lot, and it seems like God's really moving in that way. Bilger said he really wants everyone in the neighbourhood to view the church as a positive thing, even if they don't agree with the things being taught, which is great in terms of being fueled by that community. Like, it's a blessing to the community, even if it's not something everyone agrees with, which I think is great. Super intelligent guy, really knows what he's doing. We loved him. I thought it was great. He has this future vision of planting more churches throughout Istanbul, kind of keeping this current one as, well, the word he used was mothership, but then pooling resources with the other churches, and spreading the church around, which I think is exciting, and it's a good next step. And they're getting to the point growth-wise where that could be something in the short to mid-term, I think. So that's exciting. He talked about the barriers to his church specifically. He said that before you can preach the gospel, you have to break down the stereotypes and misconceptions, because there's a lot of that about Christianity in this country. He said no one knows the gospel story, but you can't just go straight out there and preach the gospel. You have to break those barriers down first. So that's a tricky thing in a service where you've only got a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
You can't speak to everyone individually, but he really tries to, because of the relational culture that we described. He loves EC, and he loves the two-way relationship that he feels like that's really beneficial, that he feels like he's giving and he's receiving as well. He said he hasn't taken part in as much as he'd like because he's been too busy, but yeah, he's really excited, and he'd love to network further with the other church planters. So I think that...
Well, I mean, another thing is that 20 to 30% of the congregation are non-believers, and the word he used was seekers. He said 20 to 30% are seekers, which I thought was quite beautiful. And he talked about how old seekers that were once seekers and now come to faith are bringing new seekers. So it really seems like the church is working, bringing in new believers, and even with all these challenges of the family and having to minister to the whole family, not just the individual, seems like the church is really doing well in this aspect of bringing people in and engaging them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was our time in Istanbul, and that was our time on the trip.
Wow.
In Europe, and actually a little bit in Asia. We're actually in Asia right now,
now,
so we're a bit cheating. It's not quite Europe, but yeah, we thank you so much for all the support and everything.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching, and see you soon, hopefully. Bye.